There's no question the Delta variant is why today's job report isn't stronger. I know people were looking, and I was hoping for a higher number. But next week, I'll lay out the next steps that we're going to need to combat the Delta variant, to address some of those fears and concerns. I want to talk about
For more on what those next steps could look like, let's bring in CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Ed, as we just heard, President Biden says he's going to be laying out a plan to better address the Delta variant next week. What can the White House do at this point, and what does that plan entail? Do we know?
It's a good question, Christina, that they still haven't entirely answered for us. The president did there what we like to call a tease, right? We do it ourselves, and he did it too. Aide so far not revealing much, but it's likely to include a mix of potential new public health responses to the variant, maybe a new push on vaccines as we head into the fall, and also potentially something to help juice the economy, given these disappointing jobs numbers. 5.2%, that is down. President points out correctly that in each of the 7 jobs reports of his presidency so far, jobs have been created. Problem is, economists were expecting far more, about 500,000 more. But it shows that just about at the beginning, mid-August, when the Delta variant really started to take off, especially in southern states, the jobs numbers or the hiring slowed considerably. And so while there's still a belief that the economy is doing all right, clearly it's being affected by this Delta variant and the pullback that a lot of people had to do in their buying and their spending and their reopening and then just their general economic activity.
Right. I mean, like you said, the president tried to emphasize overall his administration's success with creating new jobs, even though these numbers were lower than expected. So did he try to explain or justify why that happened? Did he defend this lackluster jobs report?
Well, I mean, he said, look, I wanted a bigger number too, but the Delta variant seems to be a big reason why. And if you look at certain sectors, especially in the restaurant and lodging industries, there was a big drop-off in jobs. And the fact that that occurred is a signal that people were perhaps postponing or putting off their late summer travels as that variant kicked up. And people realized that they had to distance again, wear their masks, and perhaps avoid indoor spaces or getting back on planes and trains. So 235,000, again, it was a net positive, but some economists were looking for closer to 700,000, and that certainly didn't happen.
So, Ed, before we came on here, you texted me saying that you had new news on the administration's work to resettle Afghan refugees. I know this is an issue we've both been tracking pretty closely. What do you got?
I was going to say, given that you especially have covered this closely, this is somebody you're going to have to get to know. Jack Markell is the former governor of Delaware. He'd already been nominated by the president to be an ambassador to one of those European outfits, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. He's now going to temporarily serve essentially as the White House Afghan refugee resettlement czar, being brought in to coordinate the work across federal agencies with the private sector, with the nonprofit sector, to ensure that they're being properly screened, either overseas or here in the United States, and then work on resettlement issues in the various places that they've been relocated to across the country. We're up to at least 8 military bases in 5 states, roughly 20,000 with a goal of having 50,000 of them in the country by mid-September. Markell is going to try to pull all that together for the president. He, of course, the former governor of Delaware, longtime political ally of this president, and somebody who's already in the nomination pipeline for a diplomatic post. So he's kind of already read in and aware of what the White House is up to. But a signal, if we needed one, that this work on this issue is not going away anytime soon, and they understand now it's going to require bringing in somebody to make sure that I's are being dotted, T's are being crossed, really across society as this influx begins.
Well, and as you know, there's so many government agencies involved in this. As we find out just when we try to ask a question, we get bounced from DHS to DOD to the State Department to the White House. So this is essentially going to be someone who's kind of do traffic control and coordinate between all these competing agencies?
Much like you see someone like Jeff Zients doing it on the pandemic, or you have the National Security Advisor who pulls together all the national security apparatus for the president. That's what Markell is being assigned to do here, in an assignment that very well could take a few months at least, and maybe through the end of the year at least, as these refugees are processed overseas, brought here to the United States, and communities across the country near these military bases or elsewhere start to help resettle them into society.
All right, switching gears a bit here. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom says the president is going to be campaigning for him ahead of the state's September 14th recall election. What more do we know about the president's plans, and how is he getting involved?
We do know that the president will at some point before the 14th be involved with on-the-ground campaigning. That's the signal we've gotten from the White House. When and where exactly in California would that occur? It's unclear. Obviously, the president, after his trip to Louisiana today, spends the weekend in Delaware, so it could be at some point next week or shortly in the week after, but there's not much time left. Newsom was expecting to campaign last weekend with the vice president, who of course is from California. She cut that trip off in order to return here to Washington to deal with the situation in Afghanistan. But this White House keenly aware that Newsom is facing perhaps tougher than initially anticipated challenge here to his governorship. In what really will, for the rest of the country, you should look at this as the first major political test of a sitting political figure at the statewide level in the pandemic era. I mean, President Trump, you could argue, last year lost re-election in part because of his management of the pandemic. Now governors are up for re-election in several states next year who've been running things during the pandemic. Newsom is essentially the first up. And losing in overwhelmingly Democratic California would be a huge blow to California Democrats and to Democrats nationwide. But recent polling suggests the governor should hold on, even if only by a narrow margin.
All right, a lot to talk about there on a summer Friday in Washington. Ed O'Keefe, thank you very much.
Take care.